Welcome back. I'm the anti-nmda, a board-certified ICU doctor here to give you an inside look into the intensive care unit. About a month or two ago, I made a video talking about rare diseases that might put you in the intensive care unit, and I asked if you wanted to hear more, and at least one of you said yes, so here's a second video of the same thing. So we're going to go over 3 diseases that you may or may not have heard of that will put you in the intensive care unit. The first one is anti-nmda receptor encephalitis. So there's a Netflix movie called Brain on Fire. I believe it's based on a book written by a woman who had this condition. So you may have heard of it from that if you have seen the movie or read the book. But this is an autoimmune condition. It's very rare. I've seen 1 to 2 cases in my career thus far, and it's actually shocking I've seen that many cases. It is more likely to occur in women under 45 because we're just that lucky. And just like the alpha-gal anaphylaxis I discussed in my prior video, this is another recently described diagnosis. It was first described back in 2007. So what is anti-nmda receptor encephalitis? It's an autoimmune condition where your immune system attacks these receptors in your brain, the NMDA receptors. A lot of times this might have a more insidious and gradual presentation. The patient might have vague symptoms for a couple months before it really starts to amp up. So many cases, people will say they have frequent headaches, they have fatigue, they just don't feel right. Then they start having hallucinations, delusions, psychosis, new symptoms that they've never had before. The patient might also have seizures. One of the patients I saw actually came in with uncontrolled seizures and needed to be in the intensive care unit for that reason. Or they might be just completely unresponsive and in a coma, so they need to be on life support to support them. Many times this takes a while to diagnose. It's typically, for diagnosis, we'll do a whole battery of tests for people who come in with altered mental status, as we call it. And that's just a situation where somebody is different, either more confused than they usually are, or if they're unresponsive, and we don't know why. We usually start out with CAT scans, MRIs, blood work. If a patient has a fever and these symptoms, usually they get a spinal tap or a lumbar puncture where we take the cerebral spinal fluid. This is the fluid that goes around your brain and spinal cord. And we'll take a sample of that, send it to the lab, and see if it gives us any clues, or it may help us solidify a diagnosis. So in a case where we have somebody who's confused and we still don't know why, a spinal tap may be warranted if we didn't do it when they initially came in. So in this case, the spinal fluid will actually have the antibodies, the autoantibodies that the patient's body is making against these receptors in the brain. So we'll see that there's a high level of these antibodies present. So about half of these cases are actually associated with a type of ovarian tumor called a teratoma. And this tumor is interesting in itself. A lot of time it will have hair or teeth in it. I can do a video about teratomas if you want to hear more about that. I'm sure some of the OBGYNs on YouTube have already talked about teratomas, but they are associated with this disease process, and that's probably why a lot of people who turn up with this disease are young females. And as you imagine, the treatment for this is, first, if there's a tumor, to remove it, and secondly, a hallmark of treating autoimmune diseases is to suppress the immune system, because an autoimmune disease is when the immune system acts abnormally and starts attacking the body itself. So you want to suppress the immune system, tell it to chill out and not attack the body. The next condition is called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, also called stress-induced cardiomyopathy or broken heart syndrome. And you may have heard of this because it is called broken heart syndrome. It is rare, but I've seen a fair amount of cases of this. This is caused by an increased surge of adrenaline in the body and its effects on the heart cells in the heart muscles itself. It can cause the cells in the heart muscle to become stunned or just very weakened, so the heart's not able to pump like it typically does. This condition is also more common in females, and the symptoms mimic a heart attack. People will come in thinking they have a heart attack. They have chest pain, they have the pain going down their arm, radiating to their neck, they have trouble breathing, and they have that crushing sensation of a heart attack. And when we do an EKG and measure the electrical activity in the heart, it looks like they're having a heart attack. It looks exactly like a heart attack. So we take them to the cath lab, and their coronary arteries have no blockages, but their left ventricle looks like it's ballooned up. They call this apical ballooning of the heart, and I'll put a picture here, and that's actually how this condition got its name. A Takotsubo is a type of octopus trap, and the cardiologist who first identified this said, hey, the heart looks very similar to this octopus trap, so that's why it's called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. The treatment for this is typically giving the patient some cardiac medicines that help repair the heart, but this usually heals within a couple months. There are some cases where this can be life-threatening. A patient can go into acute heart failure because the heart pump is not working well. It can also cause what we call cardiogenic shock, where the body is in a shock state with low blood pressure because the heart pump is not able to keep up with the blood pressure. And there are some instances where people have died from this. There are also cases where patients' hearts don't completely heal and resolve, and they still have some aspect of chronic heart failure, months to years after this event. One of the most, textbook typical cases that I have seen of this was when I was a resident. There was a patient on the floor who was hospice status, and he passed away, and his wife suddenly had chest pain. She was taken to the emergency room, and they found that she had a heart attack like symptoms, and her EKG looked like a heart attack, and she ended up in our coronary ICU because she had Takotsubo cardiomyopathy in reaction to her husband's death. So this is a real reaction to stress. That is a very typical story of why this got the name of broken heart syndrome. And the final diagnosis is called mixed edema coma. This occurs when somebody's thyroid is extremely underactive. So when the thyroid is slow or underactive, everything in the body will slow down. Patients who have hypothermia are usually extremely tired. They can be cold. They might have slower digestion and constipation. They might have a slower heart rate. So the extreme of this is mixed edema coma, when somebody's thyroid is so underactive that they can become unresponsive. And it can also cause their heart rate to go very low. It can cause their blood pressure to go very low. The patient might be hypothermic with a low core body temperature. And the mixed edema part of this is swelling. So the body might start retaining fluid and they'll have swelling. So these patients will end up in the intensive care unit if they become so unresponsive that they may need to be placed on life support to support them. And the treatment for this is usually IV thyroid replacement. People who have hypothyroidism will take a pill every morning to replace their thyroid hormone, but in these cases we have to give it IV just so it will work a little bit more aggressively. This condition can be triggered by infections or certain medications that affect the thyroid, or if somebody is not taking their thyroid replacement hormones at home and their thyroid slows down even more. This is commonly in patients who have either had a prior diagnosis of hypothyroidism, or if they've had some type of treatment for either hyperactive thyroid, where the thyroid gets what we call ablated. That just means part of the thyroid is destroyed if it's very overactive, to try to combat that, or if they've had the thyroid removed in cases of thyroid cancer. And typically in patients who have had thyroid cancer and had a thyroidectomy or removal of the thyroid, they are given replacement hormone to prevent this condition from occurring. This is an extremely uncommon condition, and I think it's because a lot of people are on top of their thyroid and making sure that their thyroid's in good function and taking their medication. But I did see this condition actually very recently within the past month. So those are 3 more of the rare medical conditions. If you want to hear more, I have plenty more where that came from. So let me know below. If you have any specific requests for videos, as always, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at the or you can leave in the comments below. I will see you in the next video on Tuesday.